What's going on, guys? Don over at REI Automation and Beast Mode CRM. Had a question for this week's Q&A call regarding clicking of a category button to set task, and if there was a way to do that based off that category button being clicked. An example of this would be when appointment set is clicked, you want to have a task set to call and remind them of the appointment 24 hours prior to that. Or, under contract, maybe you're setting up a task to call the title company or to confirm things with buyers or sellers. All that kind of stuff can be done based off a button click. And we're going to talk over what that looks like. So have up a demo workspace. And when I specifically mean category buttons, I mean buttons like this. And for this one specifically, we're going to talk off of what happens when the next action button changes and it changes to appointment set. So I've got a couple different ways that this automation can happen, and in doing so, certain things happen when doing it. So what I mean by that is you can make this task happen based off the button click with the internal workflow automation inside of Podio, inside of Beast Mode. In order to have access to that, just know that you have to be an admin of the workspace. It can be done with Zapier, and it can be done with Globiflow. Now, each of those have some different things that can be done if you use the different platforms. So let's talk over that. When you're in a workspace, and this is a workspace and this is activity screen, if you use Zapier, the best that Zapier can do is create a task within the workspace. So it's not going to create a task on the bottom of the app. So for instance, if I scroll down to the bottom, give me a second, you see tasks down here. So these tasks down in this property item are created based off of certain things happening. However, if you're creating a zap that looks at, hey, when this button is updated to appointment set, it creates a task, but it can't create it in this specific item. It simply is able to in the workspace. So if I click on this one, this is one of the ones where it was created by a zap. It creates the task. It does what you want it to do. You can make it to where it'll create a task 24 hours before an appointment to make that reminder happen. It tells you the task is to call the seller, tells you who the seller's name is, their phone number, the address, and if you click this, it would actually take you directly to the item inside of the property lead app. So maybe this is something that you like, and it can be used via Zapier to make that happen. Just know you would not see this task in the item. You would see it in your workspace task area. So I'm going to go there right now so that we can kind of at least show you where that would show up. When you're on your activity screen, you have the workspace task management right here. And if you click the blue area, it'll show the tasks that you currently have open. So this is where you would see those tasks that are created if you were using the Zap to make this happen when a button click happens. So let's look at Zapier real quick and go through kind of the steps. So when you're in Zapier, you can create a zap, and the app that you're going to click on is going to be Podio, and the event is going to be choosing Podio, choosing when something is updated as a trigger. You point to your login to Podio, and if you've never done that, it'll make you do a login and connect your Podio. And then under where it's going to be looking, you're looking at an organization of wherever your workspace is located. So if I go back, the workspace org is this name right here. These are workspace names. So let's go back to Zapier. This is going to be the workspace name. You find that on let's see if we can go back. Workspace name is going to be up here, or when you first log in, it's got the name up at the activity screen. And then the application would be the property leads. We're saying when the next action is updated, then you do something. So what would happen in order to fetch these items is you would create an item first. And what I would suggest is going down to the appointment section. If that's what you were trying to do based off the appointment set, I would fill in all these dates and fields right here in the appointment section that you could possibly want to use in your triggers. And then at that point, you would want to update the next action to appointment set, since we're doing this one for appointment set. It's just based off of whatever you're trying to do. So if you were trying to do under contract, you'd want to make sure all the fields were filled in the contract section, then click the under contract button. After that's done, then you would want to look for the data and pick the item that has those different points that you filled in. At that point, you would say done and go ahead and go down to do this. So after you have something updated and its appointment set, you're going to say, I want you to do this, which is basically create a task. And so you choose an app, what's the action or event, create a task, and you're pointing to the account for the Podio. And then you can see here that I've said appointment set task. I put in the information, and then I use this little area over here to point to these variable fields. And so the title is the seller's name, and you can see the phone number, field for map address, and then the link to the specific item is right here. And that's what created that task that I showed you earlier. And I'll go back to it in a minute. One thing to note, you can see that I've pointed to the date of appointment and the start time of that appointment. And then I said, hey, I want you to minus 1 day off of that and set the task. So basically we're saying, hey, call 1 day or 24 hours prior, and just note that there's a space in between this and the minus, and then it's minus 1 day. So this article right here, I'll show it and give a link to it. This article talks about how you can do hours, seconds, days, things like that inside of Zapier based off of days, and set your due dates based off of that. Responsible person, I've done a custom, and I've done it as far as the user ID number. One way to get that would be, and you can see the ID or user assigned to is right here. This is that exact task that was created. How you get a user's ID that you're trying to set a task for, if you're in a workspace and you're up here, if you click on their item, the URL bar, I'll go up here, here's the user ID. So that's how you can do it. You click on their bubble, and once it opens, you can see their user ID. And then you're pointing to the org again and the workspace. So it's going to assign the task to that workspace. Unfortunately, you can't go and point back to the actual item, property item. It just sets it to the workspace, as I kind of brought up before. But the person that's assigned the task would get a notification that they've received a task. And if they were to open up the workspace task management area, they would be able to see that they have that task assigned. And so again, if you click on either here or this blue link, you'd be able to open up all open current tasks, and it would be assigned to them. You can see it's assigned to that user ID right there, and then it directs them to this. So that can be done with Zapier. However, I understand some people would not want to have it assigned to the workspace. They'd want to see it on the actual item itself. And so I understand that. If you're wanting to do it to the actual item itself, there's 2 different ways to do it. You can do it through the workflow management. Again, you have to be an admin member of the workspace or have your own GlobiFlow account. So let's look at the workflow that I just brought up. Okay, so when you're inside of an app and you're an admin, we have a premium account that we're paying monthly access for. And all of our Beast Mode members have that access. And if they ask for admin access, we can give them admin access. And you'll see this show up if you have that access. Manage workflows. Now, I've already created this one right here, but what we can do is click in there in a second, but you're just simply clicking on here to create a workflow. And the one specifically that we're looking for is when an update happens. And we're looking for when the next action, so we clicked next action, and when it's changed. So we're looking for the next action to be changed, and that's what's our trigger. And then, and if the next action, or sorry, future, you want, that's not current, you want future. If the future next action is equal to appointment set. So future next action contains, and then you pick whatever you want. So we picked appointment set before, and I'm going to leave this and not update it, but that's what you're looking for. Future contains, and then appointment set or whatever else you're trying to do. and then create a task. So I just drag this little tablet down here and then give the title, assign it to whatever user. So if I click out of here, you can see that you can pick the users in your workspace and assign it to a specific user. And then if you want to point to a due date, you pick the date field. Now for this one, it was date of appointment. And then we did -1 day, which was basically 24 hours prior. We could assign them a task to call that seller. Now this is going to assign a task right in this item. Now in the details, you see that you're not able currently. So if I go here or click on anything, we don't have any way to update this task and give the variables. So we can't put the seller's name, phone, address, anything in here that we wanted to, like we were able to do with the Zapier function. So just know that you're basically setting a task, and whatever you put in the title is going to have to tell them kind of what they're doing. And then you see in the name, you can just go ahead and save it. And now anytime appointment set is clicked in the item, this person will receive a task. It'll be set for 1 day before the appointment date, and whatever the title is, that's what they'll be told that they're doing, basically. And sure, you could put some details in here of what they need to do, but overall, you're not able to pull in things like the seller's name, phone, any of that variable type stuff, okay? So that's another way to do it. As I mentioned, GlobyFlow is another way to do this stuff. So I'm going to go into a flow that we created, and what I'll do is tell you that you're just clicking New Flow if you have access to GlobyFlow, and then we'll go into this one. When an update happens and the next action is appointment set, before not equal to appointment set, but now it is equal to appointment set, we are picking who we want to assign the task to. Now, just note, you can set it to any of the members, or you have like the field of team member to receive task, or you could even say whoever created or is currently revising this item should get this task. So that's one of the things that's available in GlobyFlow that's not available in some of the other ones. Task title, you're just going to put as whatever you want. So appointment set task, current date, current time. Again, you can minus or plus. So for this one, it'd be a -1 day. So you do -1 day, and then that would set it for, if there was a time, it would set it for 24 hours prior, and you could say call seller to verify appointment, and you could say seller. And with this one, you can do variables. So you can do seller's name, phone, and address. And if we type map for this one, we can get the address, and then URL. So this one would make it to where they could auto click the URL. This is kind of nice because it'll send an email to them when they receive this task, and you use the URL link to item. And when they get the email in their Gmail or whatever they're getting, the URL to that specific item would be in that email, and they'd be able to click it and it would open that item. So I always suggest putting that in there. So my personal preference, if you have GlobyFlow, would be using GlobyFlow. I'd probably look at maybe Zapier if you're okay with it going to the workspace as a task, as a secondary. And third, potentially using the workflows in there if you're okay with not having the variables. So just kind of know what's available out there, what you can and cannot do with the certain automations that are available. If someone else has some input on availability of something else, feel free to post below on the video. But any questions you have, just post below the video and we'll go from there. And we'll get this uploaded to both the YouTube, Facebook group, and then the training portal as well. All right, guys, take care.